The idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those who give. يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ. It's amazing, in ease and hardship. And I think Sheikh Yasser captured that so beautifully to say, it's not just nilly-willy, it's whenever you feel like it. No, it's actually even when you're feeling the hardship, when you feel the pinch, you also give at that point, and when you have ease, both. And then there's probably the favorite part of the conversation here, because we're trying to talk about what to do in terms of anger. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about here, وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ. That term, كَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ, it's so interesting, subhanahu wa ta'ala, to think about what does Allah mean here. It's anger that he's speaking about. Earlier I'd said that anger is from shaitan, and shaitan is created from fire. So anger is really a spark, a flame that's in one's heart that sparks with anger, right? And it's like when you put water to boil on kettle, and it gets hotter and hotter and hotter and angrier. But even the steam that comes out of it can actually hurt somebody and cause serious damage, not just the hot water itself. Every part of it becomes something that's damaging. And so anger is like that. You can manifest your anger in speech, in your expression, in your behavior. And so what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse is the righteous will control all aspects of their anger. And it's interesting because in psychiatry, as a psychiatrist, and in the mental health field, we talk to people a lot about anger management. And some people will say you should suppress anger. And actually, that's not what the Quran says, nor is it what the mental health field says. They both say you should restrain anger. Anger is normal. It's a normal human emotion. But you have to learn how to restrain it, to harness it, right? That there should be times when you're angry, especially when it goes against the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and something that's against Islam, right? But we have to be able to harness that, not just suppress, because if you just suppress and push it down, it's going to eventually erupt. That's not going to help anything. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about restraining our anger, those who restrain their anger. And so there's many ways to do this, and I'll just briefly list a few that come directly from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ about making wudu, cold water, right? The idea of the dhikr and remembrance, taking down anger, reciting Quran takes down anger, changing your physical position, your movement from if you're sitting, stand, if you're standing, sit, if you're sitting, lie down, right? And then moving away from the situation that caused you anger. And this is where the Prophet ﷺ, one time a man came to him and said, advise me, O Rasulullah. And he says, don't be angry. So then he says again, he asked again, advise me. And he said again, it's the second time, don't be angry. And he asked him a third time, advise me, O Rasulullah. And he said, don't be angry. 3 times. 3 times he said to the same man, don't be angry. And so the Prophet ﷺ clearly saw something in this man to where the advice 3 times over was don't be angry. And so this idea of anger is something that actually needs to be something that we work on. When one of us, there's another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, when one of you is angry, be quiet. Because when you're angry, you're more likely to say and do things that you then end up being very regretful about. So that's part of restraining the anger, is learning how to stay quiet as much as possible. And it's not perfect. It's not a perfect thing, and we are not perfect. Human beings, we're not perfect. But this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin." Right? He loves those who do good, who attempt, who try. And may we all be, inshallah, people who are attempting and trying to do our very best. And that's what matters at the end, that we did our best, inshallah ta'ala.
How do we carry on that habit throughout the month of Ramadan, though? I mean, beyond the month of Ramadan, right?
Well, definitely in the month of Ramadan. I just the other day, my kid did something, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, inshallah, it's Ramadan, right? It's only natural, right? And you remind yourself, you're like, okay, I'm gonna work on this. But I do want to be clear again about this idea of it's a natural and normal human emotion, so we can't just expect ourselves to never be angry. But it's about how high that volume gets turned up. That becomes really important. Sometimes it's really loud and really high. And I think this very much is what Allah is talking about here. Allah about restraining it, of turning the volume down to something that is reasonable, or even when you're upset. So it's just that we're the middle nation, we're a middle path people, and we never want to go to extremes. You don't want to be someone who's just completely everything just goes, nothing bothers them, because that's not reality, nor someone who just immediately kind of goes straight to this anger. So that middle path is kind of remind yourself, tone it down, turn it down, go a little quieter, right? And inshallah, that kind of helps sustain us.